Welcome.
So good to be back with you all.
Yes.
I know we've been gone for a minute. A lot of things happened while we were away.
Mm-hmm.
I had a birthday.
Woo! Happy birthday!
I'm 40, y'all. I just turned 40.
40?
Fabulous 40. Fabulous 40.
Resounding surprise. Resounding surprise across the transverse nation.
And had a blast with my partners. Elise J and I went upstate at a getaway house. If you ever heard of a getaway house, it's like a really, really, really tiny house, a little cabin on wheels in the middle of the woods, and you're with like a community of fellow cabiners. I don't know. And you have like your own like fire pit where you can, make some dinner, which we attempted to do.
We tried. Shrimp is hard to make over fire.
We didn't know.
Squid is hard to make over fire.
Thank you for my birthday wishes, y'all. Yeah, we didn't know how difficult it was going to be to make those items, but it was difficult. It took us a while.
We found our way.
Yeah.
Indoors.
And it was just nice to be in nature and to wake up with this big window looking out into the woods. And it was very, very quiet compared to New York City. So,
very restorative.
Yes. And we had talked a lot during this trip, as this was like one of the first big trips we've taken, I guess, post pandemic, all together, spending time together as a polyconfigurated family. And we're really admiring the fact that like we were able to do a trip like this, where the three of us could be together and celebrate together. Yes. And y'all really held me and took care of me. And so we thought that today we would talk about what the heck is a polyconfigurated relationship and non-monogamy. I switched it around.
What the heck is a polyamorous relationship and ethical non-monogamy?
Hey. And we couldn't really do that without having everyone here. So without further ado, we would like to introduce our special guest for today, Jay Hoopa.
Hi, everyone. All together.
We're here.
In a small sense of the word, because we're still missing a person too. But yeah, my partner. But that's okay.
3/4.
So yeah,
3/4.
3/4. Right. So.
Hey, the whole cast. Oh, that's precious.
Aww.
But I think that it's appropriate to be taking on the topic because, like you said, this was like a first big trip, and it was a small cabin, and it was like a reality show, an invitation to like be like
very, very tiny quarters.
Three humans, and two dogs.
Yes.
And
sharing one tiny shower, one sink, one toilet, one sink. The sink doubled as a kitchen sink, and the toothbrushing sink, and the hand washing and the face washing sink.
All that.
Yeah,
we were roughing it.
Really? Yeah.
So that's rare.
If that's rough,
that's rare.
Roughing is glamping. I mean, we are glamping, but I will be honest. Like, I mean, literally, the cabin is probably. This sofa cannot fit.
No.
in the cabin.
No.
Very impossible.
The three of us couldn't stand in the kitchen together.
We like all three. Like I would literally go to the car and comfortably go sit in my car because I actually like to sit in my car. And it's like I'm just gonna go sit in the car. I'm gonna go for a walk. It's a lot of space that's needed. Yeah.
Space is good. For some people, space is a vital part of any polyamorous configuration. And I'd be interested to hear from folks. What else do you think are vital components of a polyamorous configuration?
Communication.
Yeah,
that's like a no duh. Like if you don't communicate, it's not going to work at all, ever. I think
I will say that for me, it has always been between the words of collaboration and creation. More so creation, because I'm a person where I need to know and need to feel that not can I create with you, but what does the relationship create for others? Right? Like, how is it seen in the world for others? It is my love language, by the way. So this is probably why it's essential, because I actually enjoy when people are like, oh my gosh, I love what this is. I don't know what this is, but it's amazing in my mind. And they explode. Because when you do something different, I mean, we were recently all up here together, and it was really powerful to be like walking on the sidewalk in a line of 4. And honestly, watching people just kind of gaze over as we're all linked in hand or arm and, engaging, and just kind of these subtle looks of like, are they?
What is happening? I mean, can you really, And when your mom is with us, it's like, what is really happening?
Going on? Yeah, my mom is like, definitely the one who's like, oh, like, what is this? Age has no barrier, race has no barrier. Like, religion has no barrier in this configuration. Economics, education, all of that is disrupted with what is. Yes, I think a lot of that is also like creating a whole new world for a whole new world idea or order for people's imagination, which I think is very healthy. So I get I get fulfilled in that, because I enjoy being able to see us as a loving disruption, if you will.
Yeah, I think that your point is definitely a significant one when thinking about just how we may appear and what a visual can do for people's imaginations and their idea of what is possible. And so I always say that people's imaginations can only go as far as their canon. And so if their canon doesn't include different sorts of relational configurations or different sorts of ideas of love or different sorts of ideas of what it means to be in connection to or connection with, then their imagination can only go that far. So expanding the canon becomes a significant step as well. But for me, part of what makes, or heck, I forgot my original question, but a vital piece or a vital component of polyamorous configuring, I think, is the capacity to be, I would say, self-reflective. And I've been thinking about the distinction between self-reflective, self-aware, and self-conscious. And I think that sometimes it can get a little bit mixed up, but I think self-awareness and maybe even self-awareness and self-reflection, I think, are both. Let's put them both together. I think they're both very.
Stay with the separated.
I mean, holding that both of them are important, but they are separate. The three of them are separate.
I'm a Trinitarian still.
So are we. So self-awareness, self-consciousness, and self-reflection. So self-reflection, the capacity to be able to reflect with myself about what's happening in my reality. Self-awareness, the capacity to maybe see outside of myself and see like, how am I acting in this sort of environment? And when I'm triggered, what are my responses? When I'm tired, what are my responses? In the morning, that's me being aware of myself. And then self-consciousness, I think, can become a bit detrimental when it's sort of like a hyper focus on the self, and the consciousness is solely oriented toward the self. And in a way that limits your ability to be able to connect, because all you can see in your world is you. And so pushing against your own, that human ego, the human ego that wants to be conscious only of the self to like a collective consciousness. Is I think a good step to be taking.
Yeah, that like I think that's related to something I was just thinking about, like the fact that not everything's about you, and it's the understanding that like sometimes things happen and it has nothing to do with you, and that is hard for me. Y'all know that it's hard for me sometimes to see outside of that, because sometimes like somebody might be in a mood, might be in a funk, something might have happened. And I'll be like, what did I do wrong? What just happened? You know, and sometimes it has nothing to do with me.
And until you stop trying to read people's faces.
And
you don't know what people's faces mean.
I can't stop doing that.
But also, you know, Aries, team player, wanting to make sure that everybody's okay.
Yes.
We love this about
you. But also I'm going into the understanding that like everybody has a different perspective. Everybody reacts differently to something. Sure. And often it doesn't have anything immediately to do or anything to do with me.
Yeah.
And I need to learn to allow people to have their moment in the same way that I asked to have my moment, to react, to respond, you know, to step away if I need to. You know, all those things are really important, you know. So
can I add on that too? Like, even if it does have something to do with you, I think it's good for people to just have their space anyway.
Have their moment.
And like if it's something to be brought to you, then it'll be brought to you. But it's like, I love how Polly has encouraged me to be delivered from mind reading. Growing up in a sort of household where I felt I was a bit of a people pleaser, and also trying to make sure that the people in my house weren't angry at each other. It made me hyper aware of people's emotions. And I think in my ripe age of 36, it felt significant to be like, you know what, if I'm not told, then I don't know. And I think that that's a good place to be, to give people their agency.
And trusting that everything's going to be okay. Like, you don't have to know. You don't have to kind of like premeditate a response to somebody else's, you know, reaction or issue. It doesn't have to have anything to do with you.
Yeah.
And I think that also leads into like one thing that I've been doing, because a lot of people, when they think of polyamory, they think about like insecurities and jealousy. And I tend to lean into an abundance narrative where I know that like part of being poly is the fact that you have the ability to love abundantly and love wholly different people, and not in a way where it's competitive or anything like that. It's just like any other relationship. You love everybody in your life differently. You know, and so it's the acceptance and the acknowledgement of that, like you have different types of bonds with different people, and that's okay. And that there's enough love for you within that configuration too. A lot of times the insecurity comes in when it's like, well, how do I know that you really love me the way that you say? Because I do. I said I do, and I do it, you know, but it's that trust. That trust and acknowledgement of like, love is abundant in nature. And so why wouldn't there be enough for me? You know, instead of the opposite of that, which is like, you only have enough love for one person, you know, and I guess like you have to choose between us two.
Well, I think, and this is so funny because I was just talking to Brian about this idea. It's like, it's not a lot of time, you know, and just, it's not about necessarily always choice. When it comes down, that's a monogamous construction, right? Choice says you choose, you do this. I think when it comes to polyamory, there is not a conversation of choice, but confirmation, right? You exchange choice for confirm who I am in your life, right? A constant, like a recommitment to the moment in time, you know, and I think that's, you know, one of the things that I think is very important in identifying, because a lot of our, you know, when we think about also just in general, I will say, I feel that monogamy is very, very rooted in what do you have together, right? As like, what is your relationship going to be together? When, for me, polyamory has often said, you have an abundance of love. How does this relationship affect, you know, others outside of this, right? So there's always this thing of like, there's always an external event that's going to happen because there's an expansion and then there's an inward expansion, and then there's an outward expansion of that relationship that is happening. So
are you talking about like community?
Yeah, I'm talking about community, because the first thing, like, community is what really if people approach polyamory from a space of community, which can be different because it's not everybody's structure. Okay. Some folk like to be body collectors, or love, I'm gonna just call it what it is.
Not body collectors.
I'm gonna call it body collectors because when I see people say they're polyamorous. If you ask people to raise their hand about if they're polyamorous, they are happy to say that they're polyamorous, but they are not committed. They are happy to say that they are polyamorous, and they are not at all consistent. They don't have a sense of compassion to want to communicate. And so really what they're doing is they really just got several friends with benefits. Right?
Which is something that can be named.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
It can be named. So that everybody knows what they're doing.
Right.
Yeah. Right. So like we've got, see, exactly. Somebody know, definitely known some body collectors. Come on, right? They body collectors. And so as a result, we end up getting pieces of ourselves. We end up getting pieces of ourselves, and we never get anything back in return. We never get, we never, the membership of what we are together is never returned to us. I think that healthy polyamory, healthy ethical non-monogamy, what it does is it delivers you unto yourself. So whatever I've given unto you comes back to me. And at the same time, it comes back, right, as a beautiful, I'm going to be theological for a few minutes here, as a beautiful ontological reflection of the love that I've invested. Ontological, just basically saying that, like, you studied me enough, my being enough, to know what preserves me and brings me back to who I am called to be. If I whisper to y'all and said, well, Story did such and such and such and such, you'd be like, that's not Story's behavior. That's not reflective. We want to be reflective in this. And so if love does not deliver you back to yourself, and those who you do have love with do not deliver you back to yourself, you are wasting your time. For those in the room, monogamy, polyamory, whatever you got.
Whatever.
Okay? If it's not being delivered back unto you, for you to see a reflection of yourself that makes you feel beautiful, let it go. So I find that there is that, and I appreciate the collective work, but that does not mean that we go looking for, which is my favorite thing, because how I arrived to my experience, and y'all have heard me talk about this many times, it is really rooted in understanding, yes, the self, and coming to a self-actualization. That the self-actualization engages your first forms of polyamory for me, which are me, myself, and I. You cannot have a relationship outside of yourself until you understand me, myself, and I. And if you think that you're going to do that and then try to have someone else in that, you're going to end up in a very selfish, monogamous situation where you are trying to everything belongs to me. You are mine. This is
that's why the abundance narrative is so important. Because and it goes back to what I've said weeks ago, like nobody owns anybody. And so like automatically, if you don't own anybody, there of course is abundance of love, because it's not just your love to have. That person's not just on the earth just to serve you. That person's on earth to journey with you. To go through life with you. And they're choosing to do that. That is the choice. That they're choosing to do that with you.
And that's their agency. And you don't, and that's the thing. I think we don't want to take away people's agency for them to know what they are called to do for themselves in the process. Maybe it is understanding how do I need to walk alongside and discerning what that process looks like so that you remain healthy even in your configuration.
Well, that's what I really appreciate about what we have kind of grown into
It's a grow. It's a grow. Keyword grow.
It is a growing. But we have grown to allow each other to do what we need to do for ourselves within the configuration.
Mm-hmm.
So like Elise moving, to Cali soon, to pursue something that is really close to your heart. And I'm so excited for you. And I'm also going to get to be bi-coastal, like Jay being able to be in community, to be able to be in community with Susquehanna and Baltimore and do everything that's your heart's desire is important. And I decided to stay here in New York because I believe that this is where I've grown the most, and I don't think I'm done here, and there isn't this, forcing anybody to do something just because I want to do it, it's like, what is going to work best for you?
Yeah.
And I think that, relationships that go outside of monogamy in that way, and even in monogamous relationships, there are people that are in relationship with each other that say things like, you know what? Like, it works best for me to live in the city, but you want to live in the country, go do that. We can have 2 separate homes, and we can meet in the middle somewhere. Mm-hmm. I know lots of people that do that.
I mean, Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera, they live right next to each other. They had 2 separate houses.
Mm-hmm.
It's
for the best. It's for the best. But when you have the self-reflection, when you know yourself, you know how to communicate those things to your partners. You know how to say, like, you know what? Like, I need like at least a day or 2 by myself every week. Because if I don't, you won't like who I'm going to be. True. In the morning and the afternoon, like, it just.
And it's been a practice. It's been a practice for within our partnership, because I've never been technically in one place. I don't think I was ever in one place. I immediately, we got married in February, and then what happened? Like, immediately
then
I was off,
into Union.
And then I got into Union and I left for New York, right? And so I left.
Well, the thing was, no, that's not how it went. Say how it went. You got the placement at Union.
Yes.
You wanted me to come to New York with you.
Yes.
And what I said?
They said no.
I said, no, I'm not going to New York.
They were not going to New York.
I was like, I'll stay here in Baltimore.
Yeah.
So it was not that you left me. I wanted to be there.
Yes. Okay.
Say it the way it's supposed to be.
And then there's the term agency, right? There's a good example of agency, right? Being able to say, no, I'm not going to do it. And I was like, okay, but I knew I had to also just go, right? I had to go to that place. And I think... for me.
And I think that for you.
And that's all that I think we have seen is like space is helpful for us. Space is helpful for when I say us, I'm talking about all of us.
Humans.
All of us as humans. Because
sentient beings.
And you don't need to always be around somebody to make anything happen. You don't need to be in everybody's company because you need to sit with yourself. You need to exchange your loneliness to be by yourself. You're not alone if you are by yourself. Being by yourself means that you have time to attend to yourself. Being lonely is a state of mind. It's not a state of being. You have the ability to make a choice. So I know that I just want to point that out for some people who sit with that.
That's really important. I feel like I learn the most about myself when I am by myself. Like, I love the fact that I have this cozy little love nest to myself, and
the house changed about 5 times a day, y'all.
I'm able to redecorate the way I want to. I can listen to loud music early in the morning if I want to. I can.
At least like quiet morning.
Quiet. I can't do anything. I can't do anything in the morning.
Actually, quiet mornings and invisible mornings. I actually have learned that Elise does not like to look at people in the morning. I was like, oh, okay.
I am in my own world.
Really?
Crafting my own reality for the next 12 hours of the day.
And do not interrupt them.
Yes.
So yeah,
I love me.
Come on.
And that's the thing. Like, I've learned that, like, being alone is not loneliness. Like, being alone it feels good sometimes. And I get to do the things that bring me joy. And, I'm kind of like a person that loves to like make other people feel good. And so like when I don't have that pressure, it allows me just do like, oh, what do I want to do for myself? Because
Well, I feel like I say to Story maybe once every week that they are so evolved, because they are telling me things about trust. They are telling me things about what it means to be self-sufficient. They are telling me about what it means to dig deep inside and discover the secrets of the universe inside of myself.
Come
I
on.
say, well, you are so evolved, Story. I'm so glad that you've come a mighty long way, and you get to be so evolved so that you can spread your wisdom among us. And I'm not being sarcastic. I'm actually being for real. To also signal the embrace that I encounter of not being as evolved as I would like to be in some areas. And also through everyone has their way that they come to this, but my Buddhist practice assures me that everything is as it should be. And it should be no other way. So the way that I am in this moment is true to me.
That's right.
And I imagine the people in my life will decide if they're able to hang with that or not. And everyone will make the decisions that are right for them. But I have gained so much from just being honest with myself about where I am. And not holding myself to any other standard, where in some polyamorous circles, this concept of compersion is like a goal. That is the capacity to feel happiness for your partnering or connections with other people.
Yeah,
that's the gist of it. And for me, I remember I read something one day. It was like, setting up yourself to espouse an ideal that you may not be ready to encounter is bringing more harm to yourself in the process. And it's like, it's not even this thing of like, I don't want my partner to be happy. It's more like, where am I actually, so that I can begin to interrogate those things.
That's exactly.
And go through my own discernment process about what to do next, because I found it's rare that what is happening requires somebody else to do something differently. It's generally that I need to take another perspective or another even approach to understanding my own needs and finding out where do I meet those needs. I am a person who believes that needs are well met in community, and leans so lovelily on my community to hold me and embrace me, because that's what I think humans are here for, personally. But I'm also a person who can spend several days by myself. And if it weren't for my partner who calls me, I don't think anybody would hear from me for 3, 4, 5, 6 days. So thank you for calling. But I think it's important to, I'll say as an example, and then I'll pass it. Whenever people ask about polyamory, they're ask me about polyamory, and then they say why they won't do it. It is almost always, like you said, jealousy. And my response, very knee-jerk to someone one day, was that, like, there's worse feelings than jealousy. Like living below your potential. That's a pretty bad feeling. Or preventing people from coming into their fullness. That's a pretty bad feeling. There are worse things than jealousy. And generally, beneath each jealousy is, I think, besides jealousy just being a feeling, but beneath each jealousy, I imagine, is some sort of trauma that can be worked with.
Absolutely. I mean, I remember early on, I realized that there's a lot of like family dynamics that take place within poly configurations. And you're right. Like, jealousy is also such like it can be such a fleeting, reaction to something. Once you do the self-reflection and sit back and think about like, what is actually happening, like when I see my partner with this other person and I see them laughing and everything, what am I really reacting to? You know, is it that I'm starting to question, like, oh my gosh, are they really happy with me? Why wouldn't they be though? You know, like, aren't I a great person? Like, don't I make other people laugh? So like, it's this deeper reflection, and it's interesting because I feel like with siblings sometimes. Siblings are kind of like sometimes pitched against each other in this way where like we first get jealous sometimes of our siblings. Like I remember, this is really bad, but I remember like being 5. I was the only child until I was like 5, and then I was 5 and my mother was pregnant again. And, you know, I knew I was going to have a baby brother, and I was pissed. I was like so jealous because for me, I just thought like, it's not going to be all about me anymore. Like, I'm not going to get all the attention. My parents gave me so much love, you know, so much attention. Oh my gosh, this baby is going to take out all that away from me. And the jealousy was fleeting in that, like, I realized like, oh my God, this is someone else that I can love now, you know, and this is someone else that like I can share all the really bad things that happened with my parents with. You know, like I don't have to take on everything by myself anymore. Like I have someone else in my life that can, you know, go through these things with me, you know? And I think that in relationship to like a poly configuration, it's like this thing of like, oh my gosh, I can have like a new friend. It doesn't have to be this thing where this person separates or puts a wedge into a relationship that I already have with somebody that I really love and care about, because nobody can take that away unless we do something about that. But it's not going to happen because of somebody else. You know, like this is just now another person that I can learn to get along with and learn to be friends with, and perhaps share some laughs with myself, you know, and get to know, you know. But all that's a process because we are taught to see everybody as competitors. You know, like I'm thinking about even in school, you know, where it is especially academia. It's embedded very early on, this whole notion of like, you got to be the best. You gotta be better than this person and that person. If you don't, you're going to lose something.
And I think it's also the survival instinct.
Oh yeah.
Sort of, if that amygdala, I'm not a scientist, but that part of our brain that immediately responds to something that says we are under a threat. You need to do something right now. We are under a threat. You need to kill someone. No, don't kill anybody. You need to say something to this person. You need to do this. You need to, like, do something to protect us. That's the meta survival instinct. But I think it's also informative. Yeah, it is. It is. And it's also I've had experiences. I've had trauma. This is 5-year-old Elise, 7-year-old Elise instinct as well. So, I mean, I think I totally agree with what you're saying. And I'm also thinking about the very human shit that just happens. And you're like, oh, I don't know what's happening right now. I'm triggered. And how do we learn to respond to triggers in general? In every area of life. That's sort of the thing. Like, okay, in polyamory, it's one thing, but I think just life invites us to think about our triggers and to think about how can I respond to triggers in ways that do not bring destruction.
I mean, and I didn't mean to say it as if it's like an instantaneous.
No,
like,
not at all.
No, it's never that. It's always that process of you know, learning best tools to, you know, navigate through those situations.
Therapy is a great help.
Therapy. I was going to say therapy is kind of a non-negotiable.
In this right here, like we are very clear about therapy. Therapy is very important, not for the sake of navigating the relationship, but navigating yourself when having to deal with certain unpacked areas of your life, because this can do that. You know, there are areas that really need to be revisited carefully, and so on and so forth. And I mean, I will say all 4 of us are different in our makeup, in our cultural framing. We are not all cut from the same cloth. You know, and that's a beautiful thing, but it comes with all various kinds of cultural fabrics that have to be handled a lot of times with various care.
Mm-hmm.
You know, metaphorically, you can't sew silk the same way that you sew polyester. Okay. That's what my grandmother would say. You know, it just don't work, baby. You know, and I think that this is, you know, these are very important factors when trying to have, you know, deeper conversations, that they need to, that the real work that you have to do is really visit yourself. Visit yourself. Sit with you. Sit with you in the discomfort. You know, jealousy is a thing. I like to see myself as a very, you know, as a person with a lot of self-esteem. I'm a Scorpio, so that's what happens. We like to think of ourselves in that way. If you were a Scorpio, you probably understand what I'm talking about. But we do, and the thing is that, you know, where confidence is kind of more on an exterior thing, to deal with self-esteem can really is an internal mechanism. And so it's an internal thing of really knowing how you operate and not having to prove to others that you operate this way, right? Which is confidence. It's outside of your experience. And so I find that, like, my first experience with jealousy, like, I got jealous of Elise. I was like, oh, what is this feeling? I was like, what is this feeling? I would never forget. I was just like,
you clutched your
I did. I was like, I never felt it. I had never felt it ever. And this is because I'm the baby boy. So I always have everything laid out for me. It is mine. Right? I'm good. I stand alone by myself. Right? All of my sisters are older than me, right? I have 2 sisters. So, like, you know, they're 50, 40, married on, moved on, right? I was still in school doing my thing. It was me. So I had time to build all of that. And so all of a sudden I was like, what is this? This is a very interesting feeling. I like them. But I'm also having this other thing that's making me uncomfortable. Why? And of course, then I was, you know, like, I knew what it was, but then it gave me the motivation. For me, it gave me the motivation to understand compersion, which is a term to technically be the opposite of jealousy, to be actually happy for your partner. So, like, it is a real thing, but it doesn't, and you don't turn jealousy into compersion easy. It doesn't happen like that. You don't just, I got it, you know, I'm happy for you.
It's not linear either.
No, it's not. It goes, it opens up.
Yeah.
Today I'm gonna like you, tomorrow I'm like, what the? Okay? That's exactly what it's gonna do. And you actually have to be comfortable with interrogating yourself. You have to want to really do the work on yourself. Now, I am a performer. And when I met Elise, I really had to spend time performing the practice that I wanted to have with them. I had to be very clear about the practice I needed to have. Because otherwise, if I didn't practice it, I would never know how to actually break what the mind was trying to get me to think. Always the mind is trying to work me to a place where I'm like, I'm scared. Why? Right? But the body for me was enough information to really break that barrier. And I understood that if I did not want to face the challenge of that, which is why I often say, and some of you have heard me say, you don't get into a relationship because you're comfortable, you get into a relationship because you're courageous. It is important to have a courageous relationship to me. And so Elise was a response to that courageousness, and the courageousness to also not use towards them, but also to, also for them. As I'm gonna tell you now, anybody touch my baby, we gonna be fucking for real. Okay.
Lord.
Keep Elise name
out your mouth. Okay. That's what we gonna do. All right. That everybody know. Okay. Everybody know.
I had to do it.
Okay. These gems right here, these gems, okay, out your mouth, okay? If it ain't edifying and nourishing, trust me, you're gonna catch it. You're gonna catch these hands. And that's very real. But I think that I take pride in that. I do. I take pride in that, and I share that with y'all comfortably because I think that people walk around thinking that there's perfection in this. There is not perfection in this. There is only practice.
Yeah, there's no perfect relationship, period.
Yeah, there's only practice.
There's only practice. Yeah.
And practice creates other spaces. I got a question. Let's see. Jay, at the time, did you let the others know you were working over? Oh, yes. I was very clear about my jealousy. I told Story immediately. At least, did I even tell you? I think okay. Yeah, I knew, but I knew I was being honest because I was like, I got to work on me.
I have discernment. So
oh, yeah. And let's just be real. I mean, come on. Y'all see this face? Household. Y'all see this face? I will make 45 different faces. And at the same time, I will tell you I love you and turn around and then still knock the shit out you. Because I'm just happy.
That's confusing.
It is confusing. That's why I go to therapy.
That's why I look at everybody's faces, try to read everybody's faces. I can't read nobody's faces.
No. But no, I did. I was open about it. I was clear about it. And I did spend the time trying to work through it. I was spending also time very clear, which was different, I think, for you and I, because when I tried to explain to you that I needed to practice with you, Elise loves their space.
It's true.
So if I wanted to practice, it's almost like I need to, like I'm sparring with somebody.
But I'm also not a performer.
Yeah.
So by nature, I think maybe it's my Scorpio moon having the moon placement versus the sun placement. The moon was like, you don't like me, so don't act like you like me. And we could just do that. Yeah. That's the Scorpio moon, you guys. And it's it's like that. So yeah, I mean, it's like, I don't want to use the word love language, but maybe just like the way that we be, like knowing you more and knowing more about even performance itself and your whole, because it's not just something you do, it's kind of like a whole worldview.
Yeah, it is a worldview,
right? So knowing those sorts of things could have been helpful, but it was also like, I mean, when we talk about different worldviews, when you talk about bringing people together, you are bringing together different worldviews. So, a shoe on the middle of the floor means one thing to one person. A shoe in the middle of the floor means another thing to another person. And what do we do about the shoe in the middle of the floor?
Story says clean it up. I say I like it lived in.
I say why Jay's shoe in the middle of the damn floor? I'm gonna leave it right there. I'm not touching it.
But that reminds me of something we did very early on. We did this thing, and it's the teacher in me. We have a chalkboard in here, and in the middle of the chalkboard, I wrote the word family, I think.
Yes.
I wrote the word family, and I asked each of us to go around and do like a word web and use words that were characteristic of what we felt when we saw the word family. And it was really amazing, like how many words we came up with and how radically different they were. And like the ones that we agreed with, we put stars or hearts or checks or whatever. But it really led us into a conversation about like how we even saw family, because I think at first we took for granted that like, oh yeah, we're a family now.
Yeah, it takes
and
discernment.
It's like, what does family mean for everything?
Right.
Yeah, it takes discernment. Right. I mean, hell, I mean, even for, Brian's not here, but like it takes time. Things just take time because if you also are willing, the beautiful thing about, I will say, when you experience a reimagining of a relationship as you're evolving, right? Any relationship that you're evolving, there's a reimagining. That reimagining then should usher in the need for new language. And maybe
that just made sense.
And the need to also, create and define them based off of your findings, right? So instead of just defining what everybody else is using, you take the me find, what you found in yourself, and then you offer it as, yes, maybe a definition of some sort that we find. And so that's been helpful. And it takes time because it's a culture that comes with the collaboration and the creation and the communication and all of these things. I don't think anyone is exempt from that. And I have, that's taken time for, me with Brian doing those kinds of things. I think that this, and being patient through that, right? To usher new waves of how do you understand this as a cultural framework that we cultivate something together, that we germinate something together, that something here will grow, and it grows. And sometimes we're gonna have to prune. We're gonna have to prune some things.
That's
we're gonna
right.
have to do that. You can't do that in a rush. It takes seasons.
How do you nurture your poly garden?
Right? Yeah, like it takes seasons. So you don't just do this thing. You evolve into it, and it's it's the reason why, y'all know I've been working through my own stuff lately, and things like that. So I think about what are moments that I also try to tend to, not only now just everybody collectively, but also myself. So like going to the gym and putting those things together, thinking about my own time and how I've given so much time to other folks. And in addition to also like, how do I inform my own process? Because I love to be in the presence of everybody. I'm a socialite, but I realize that I cannot give of that all the time. I am realizing that we are almost at time too. So yeah, and I know it's a lot of information to take in today. We probably might have to do a part 2 of this, which we can definitely do. But yeah, I think that this is y'all's show. So let me shut up.
Well, thank you for being here.
Yes,
and sharing space with us. And thank you all for being here and sharing space with us. We will definitely do this again.
Yeah, everybody's saying part 2. We got
we will definitely have a part 2.
Get to some of these comments. We will. We will.
How about this? You know what I want you to think about? I want you to think about some questions.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah.
And I want you to think about some questions for next time so that we can actually engage with the platform. I know y'all were listening to us this time and we saw so many beautiful things. So please pardon us as we try to navigate that. But I want to do that. So part 2, we can really go into that. I'm glad to answer some more questions about jealousy. Maybe you get a chance to meet Brian one day. Y'all haven't met him, and y'all can see how like all 4 of us are in a space. That's always a unique thing. And then it's kind of interesting because it's not just Black queer love, but it might be a swirl of love, but in the end, but that's the power of also Black love in general. It covers a multitude of areas.
And with that said, Black queer your mind and the rest will follow. Thank you for being with us. See y'all next time. Gonna love me for me. Yeah, for me. Gonna love me for me. Yeah. Gonna love me for me. Gonna love me for me. Yeah. The flowers.
Oh, I love me for me. Here.